So for this get message, it displays us for input string ABC. So using this E, we can get information about this exceptions that are thrown. We can do this system out print line E dot, let's call this get class method, and then that get simple name. And then using this method, we can get the exception that's thrown. Now number format exception is created, is thrown. So number format exception is thrown, and the reason is because our input is ABC, it's string. So when you convert this ABC to an int, exception is created. You cannot convert this ABC into a number. So get class that get simple name. What does it do? You see it right here, guys. It displays the exception that's created. It's number format exception. If we move this one first and then run it, now we have here null pointer exception. And the message, the reason is we cannot call length method because text is null. So get class get simple name returns us the name of the exception, name of that exception. Get message displays us the reason. All right, so let's rename this class. Let's rename this class to multi catch block. All right, multiple catch block. So you can have here one catch block that might cover one of this. And then here in the day 62, let's create one more package. Example 3. And then inside this example 3, create another class, multiple catch blocks. Multiple catch blocks, and create here a main method. Multiple catch blocks and the main method. All right, so here we're gonna copy this, guys. This, let me first remove this try, and then this two catches. All right, let's take a look at this, guys. How many, like, which one of these two exceptions, guys, might be created here for this code? Array index out of bounds exception or arithmetic exception? This one is created when you go out of bounds, when you have only 5 elements and you are accessing the 7th element. This one, when you divide number by 0. So which one is thrown, guys? This one or this one?
Both of them?
Both of them might be thrown. Let's try. Let's run this code. And then it displays me array index out of bounds exception is thrown. Array index out of bounds. All right. So which one is thrown first? Array index out of bounds or arithmetic?
Array index out of bounds.
Array index, this one comes first, numbers 3. How about this? No,
Second
which
one.
exception? All right. Now it's arithmetic exception. All right. So let's try this. We're gonna enclose it inside this try block. And then here we're gonna create multiple catch blocks. Catch block number 1 and catch block number 2. All right. And you guys, you give me what should be read here in the first catch block and in the second catch block. You tell me this. All right, let's try array index out of bounds exception E. All right, let's display. Okay. All right, let's try here arithmetic exception E. All right. System out print line divide by 0. All right, let me try this. Index is out of bounds. Okay. Array index out of bounds. Let me try this. If you put them this way. So one of these catch blocks will be executed. This one or this one of this. So first, when it creates here an exception, it moves to the right catch block. And at this moment, it's the second catch block, this one. We could also have this, guys. We can write here exception E. And in this case, this one is wrong. Here we have a wrong order of these exceptions, catch blocks. I should move it to here. And now it's set, all set. So the reason is this. Which one, guys, is on top, on the top of the hierarchy? Array index out of bounds exception or exception E? Exception E. Yeah, so here, when we have these catch blocks, first, always, first, it checks this with the first one, arithmetic exception E. Which exception will be thrown, guys, in one of these 3 lines? Which exception, array or arithmetic? Really, arithmetic? Array, because here we have 4th element, right? Numbers 3 index for this element. There is no this 4th element. So there is array index out of bounds exception, and it checks with this catch block. Is this catch block for array index out of bounds exception? No. And then second catch, is this catch block for array index out of bounds exception? Yes. And let's try this. If I write here exception E, is this catch block? Can this catch block used for array index out of bounds exception? The answer is yes, because exception is a parent class for array index out of bounds exception and for this one. So it tells us that we don't need to have this one because it's already caught right here. We already handled this exception. But if you write this way, then first it checks whether it's array index out of bounds exception. And here we can display a specific message. How about this catch block? Do you think this catch block can be used to display a specific message?
No.
No? If no, why? So this catch block, is it true that this catch block might handle multiple exceptions? It could handle arithmetic exception. It could handle find not found exception. So is it true that a message for find not found exception should be can't divide by 0? No. So in this catch block, the message should be general. It could be exception is detected. Could be this way. But we cannot write can't divide by 0 because here it could catch this exception. It could be null pointer exception. Let's try null pointer string null string text null system on print line text length. So if I have this now, which catch block will be executed? The first one or second one? We have a string object with value null, and then we call on that null object length method. And then it creates, it throws which exception? Null pointer exception. It throws null pointer exception. So then we check this catch blocks. Is this catch block for null pointer exception? No. Can this catch block handle null pointer exception? The answer is yes. So the reason of an error in these two lines, is it because of dividing it by 0? No. So here for this catch block, better if the message is on a high level. If it's on a high level, okay. If it's on a high level, it would be good if it is something like, let's say, exception is detected. And then if I run it, will it display index out of bounds or exception is detected? Exception is detected. Okay. And then I would like to see here which exception was detected. How can I do it? We have that code in the previous class. So we can use this E. It stores inside itself which exception is thrown. What's the error message? It has everything. We can do E get class dot get simple name to see what's the class. Its type is exception, but the object type is different. Object type is null pointer. So here it displays null pointer exception. All right. And is there a method to see the message, the reason
Yes.
why the exception is thrown? E get message. All right. Question, guys. Can we have one try block and then multiple catch blocks? Yeah. Okay. I have tricky question for you guys. So let me create here example 4. Main method and then public static int. Let me make it boolean. Let me call it is or just some method. If let me do this, not some method, age verifier, and then here string int age. If age is older than, if it's greater than 18, return adult. Let's make it this way. And then else let's make it return teen. Okay, and then I'll include this code inside the try block. If you have a try block, should you create a catch block? Or we could have just a finally block. Just the final block. So in this case, you don't need to create a catch block. All right. All right, let me know this, guys. Will we be able to, guys, reach this line? System out print line, hello world line. Will you be able to reach this line? If I call age verified 29, if I call this, and I call it inside the system out print line. So if I do it this way, what will be returned? Adult, it will return adult. So we enter this method, age is 59, it's greater than 18, it returns adult. What return means, guys, to you? What means return? For me, return means the end of the method. If return is executed, that's it. Nothing after that return method could be executed. If I write here system out print line, it's not going to be executed. If this return is executed, will it go and run this else statement, or at least check something after this return? No. So return is like the end of the method. And this is my question here. If I have try block, inside this try block, we have this if and else. And I have here finally system out print line hello from finally block. All right. And then if I run this code, what's the value that should be returned? Adult or teen? One of this. Is it adult or teen? It's adult. How about this? Hello from finally block. Will it be displayed, this message?
Yes. Yes.
But we know that this return statement is the end of the method, right?
Yeah, because we use try.
So do you think this finally will be executed or not? The method is completed right here. When you return, that's it. It moves back to the main method.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, finally is always executed, whether return is called or not. So here, it's executed. So we see hello from finally block. If you don't have this finally block, then there must be a catch block.
So finally executed printing first and then adult, right?
Yeah. So first it does this. The main thing that we should get from this method is some string value. We should get from this method when it's called a string value. But before returning that value, we should finish everything that we should inside this method. We should return this adult, but if we first return it, then we will never be able to reach this finally. So that's why I believe this finally is executed and then the value is returned. If this return statement is done first, then you won't be able to see this finally. We can run it this way Let's try it. So here, where is it? Let me close this. Okay, we are right here. We entered the method, age verified. Then age is 59. And then when this adult will be displayed, guys, this adult, when we return to the main method, right? When we move back to the main method. So here, before moving back to the main method, it should execute this finally before moving back. So we execute this line and then we move to the main method. If we move before executing this finally, then finally won't be executed. So that's why we see here first final block system out print line and then this adult. That's why it's displayed first. So let's take a look at here in this presentation at different examples. So here you can create, I'm just giving you this idea that you can create custom exception. Custom. Let's do this. Inside this day62, create here a class called custom exception. Custom exception. And then let's create here a special exception. Let's name it this way. Invalid email. Invalid email. Right now, it's just a regular class. It's just a regular class. All right. But to make it an exception, we have null pointer exception, we have illegal state exception, we have file not found exception, we have a lot of exceptions. Now we're gonna make this class an exception. We can extend runtime exception. So now our invalid email becomes checked or unchecked exception. Which one? If it extends runtime exception. It's unchecked, right? If you extend exception, now it's checked exception. So we can extend any of these two. Now invalid email is an exception. And let's do this. Let's create here a constructor. Public invalid email string message. And then let's write here super message, this. Or I can show you this. You can make this, you can choose this generate option, constructor, and you see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So exception class will be a parent class for invalid email. These are the constructors of exception class. We have 5 constructors in the exception class. Do we have in the exception class empty constructor? Yeah. Here we have empty constructor. We have constructor with 1 parameter. We have constructor with 2 parameters. We have with 1 only, and we have with 1, 2, 3 with 4. So when you call this, when you create this, it passes this message to a parent constructor. Super calls the parent constructor. It calls this one, the one in the exception with 1 parameter. And why we need this constructor, you're gonna see when you create an object of invalid email. So we'll come back here. Let me do something like this. We'll come back here. Now, did you create this class? If you're done, let's create here inside this custom exception one more class called user. Let's create here class user. And then for this user, let's create here string email and string password. String email and string password. And then its constructor. And then getters and setters. Constructor, getters, and setters. All right, have you created this class with constructor, getters, and setters? All right, next, let's do this. We'll go here to this main class, create this main class and the main method. So right now we're creating custom exception, custom. We are creating our own exception. So we could use our own exception, not illegal argument statement exception, not array index out of bounds, our specific exception. And let's do this. Let's create here a user object with this values. Let's initialize with value pack state at gmail.com and password is Chicago 312. And then what do you think? If I remove from this email, this at symbol, will it be a valid email? No, it's not a valid email. So how can we do this, guys? How can we prevent this program from this main method from creating an object of user with invalid email? If I run it right now, it creates a user and this user has this email. This email is invalid, but it lets us creating this user with invalid email. So where can we make this kind of something like check? We can do this. Where do we assign this email and this password? Where are these two values are assigned? Inside the constructor, these two values are assigned. So we can do here this. If email is valid, then assign it. If it's invalid, then do something else. So what should be checked to make sure that email is valid?
Symbols.
We should check if email contains this @ symbol, and what's next? Email. Let's make it this way. It ends with gmail.com. This at gmail.com. Or it could be other like yahoo.com. Many more. Let's just stick to this at gmail.com. If it's this way, then you assign the email. What if the email is not valid? What can we do in that case? Do you know how to create an exception? Which keyword is used to throw an exception? Throw. So we can write here throw, invalid email exception, throw, invalid email. Oh, let's make it this way. Let's add to the end of this class exception, because as you see, all of the exception have at the end exception word. Let's make it invalid email exception. All right, next. It should be a throw new invalid exception. All right. Is it true that this class has a constructor with a required parameter? Yeah. What's the value that it requires? It's a message. So we can pass here a message like this. This email is invalid. Let me try what it says. Unhandled exception. All right. And then throw new invalid email exception. Is it true that this will terminate our program? It will stop the program. It will stop the program. So what we can do is this. We can move this whole code inside the try block. We can assume that this is some suspicious code. We can assume that this code might create an exception if this email is invalid. And then as you have a try block, you better have a catch block as well. Catch block, and then here we catch invalid email exception. Catch invalid email exception. And then here we can do this system out print line e.get message. You can copy this is invalid email. All right, let me know guys once you copied this so that we move to the main method. Yeah, we can do the same with set. Like we could have here something like this. But it should be this way without this password. So if you're calling this set email only, then it's this way. We could create other exception for password, invalid password. But unfortunately here we cannot have like, we could have one try catch and then we could have for password, again, another try catch. We'll do it right now. So before, let's run this main method. And then you see this text state gmail.com is invalid, has invalid email. Let me see. Is invalid email. And then if we run it, we created an object. We created an object. So we could do this. If we need to prevent from creating this object, if we need to make sure that this object should, if we create it, if it should always have a valid email, then we need to do this string. We should make this checks before creating this object. Before, if we do it inside here, then it tells us that like we didn't handle the problem. We didn't, because I'm running it and I can access this user.password. If I can access its password, or if I can do this user, does it mean that an object was created? It was created, even when the email is invalid, the object is created. So how I could stop it? How could I prevent this? I would have probably this string email, and then these text states are here. Something like this. And then first check email and then password, and then create an object. All right, the main idea was to show you that you can create your exception. You can create here other exceptions such as invalid password exception, invalid password exception, and it can extend any runtime exception or just exception. And then you could have here a constructor, this one. And then you could use it somewhere inside the user class or here in the main method. So if I here throw invalid email exception, new invalid email exception, and I say here email is invalid, this exception should be handled. If you don't handle this exception, it will terminate your program. You are not able to reach this point. Hello world. All right. This invalid email exception, is this checked exception or unchecked exception? Yeah, it's checked because we extended this exception. If we do runtime exception, then we don't see it. We don't see it, but it still tells us that we cannot reach this line because before we, in the line 5, we created an exception. We cannot run it. So next, if I have here a try block, And in the catch block, I have this invalid email exception in E. This E stores a message. What's that message? Message is email is invalid. So if I run it, it will display me email is invalid. If I write here email is invalid, hi, it displays me email is invalid. So you know why we can pass here a message? The reason is because we have here a constructor that accepts a message and it passes it to the constructor of the parent class. If I remove it, and then we should make it matching the class. We don't have here a constructor, so it should be empty constructor. And then let's see if we do a get message right here for the get message, throw new. So we should. So did we change the invalid email exception? Did we remove from here constructor? Yes, we did. So here we had a code before where we pass here email is invalid. So that's why there is an error. And right here, because we removed it. So if we remove it, let's see what will be displayed for this get message method. It displays us null. Did we pass here a message? No, we didn't pass. So there is no message. If I would like to pass here a message and tell that invalid email is invalid. If I would like to pass it, then we should create here a constructor. Here, a constructor that accepts a parameter message. And then here, we can run this. But before running it, we should fix these lines. Here, now it should accept a message. Email is invalid. And here, you understand why right now there is a red line right here? Do you understand why? There is no message because we created here a constructor. Now this class has only one constructor. The only one is the one that accepts a parameter. So here, that's why we should pass here a message. So if I run it now, it displays me the message. Message tells me that email is invalid. So let me move here. So single catch block with multiple examples. All right. Let's open that document. Let me open it here. All right. Let me move it to the bottom. And then here. All right. What's abstraction, guys? What's abstraction in Java? Can you tell me what's abstraction in Java? Yeah. Can you explain what's abstraction in Java? I think you can. Yeah. The idea behind abstraction is to hide the complexity, right? To show what it does instead of how it does. Okay. what's the difference between abstract class and interface? Do you know, guys?
Can I answer?
All right, you can answer. Let's give it to online student.
Yeah, it's the difference is that the abstract classes can contain like abstract methods and as well as regular method, but in interfaces there is only like abstract methods.
But
the
also,
yeah.
also included starting from Java 8. From Java 8, interfaces can have default methods and static methods. Default methods are like regular methods, but you cannot call them regular methods. They're like 99% the same, but we call them default methods. All right, what do you think? So here, in this example.
Can I ask question from that interview?
Yeah. Go ahead.
There is the interview problems, 10 questions. And the last one, do we have time to do it tomorrow if we can do it together?
We can do it even now.
Okay, that will be great. If it's
I
long.
can like quickly write the solution. So there is a method, public. It can be like string, returning string, but any it's like this bus, and then it accepts an n, int n. So this int n means the length of that fizz bus. So fizz bus also like a popular but very easy problem. So given an integer n, you're given some number. It could be 3, it could be 5. So if you are given, let's say, 4, or let's say you're given 5, then you should return an array with 5 elements. So what are the numbers from 1 to 5? These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you should put, instead of a number, a special value. In case if that number is divisible by 3 and 5, put there fizz bus. If it's divisible only by 3, put there fizz. So if it's divisible by 5, put there bus. If it's not divisible by 3 and 5 or 3 or 5, then put the number itself. So 1, is it divisible by 3 or by 5?
No.
Or by both of them? No. That's why we put their number itself. The input is 5. And then 2. It's not divisible by 3 and 5 or 3 or 4, 5. So that's why we have here only the number. And then 3. Is it divisible by 3 or 5?
No.
Sorry, not fizz. The
But
number that should be here. 3.
Yeah.
3. Is it divisible by 3 or 5?
Only by 3?
Yeah. Or this example, we are given 15. So here, 1 is itself here, 2, and then here we have, for 3, we see fizz, for 5, we see bus, and here somewhere, when it comes to 15, it will be fizz and bus together, because it's divisible by 3 and 5. So it tells you that you will be given some number. You will be given some number. It could be 4. If it's 4, you should see in the output a fizz bus output. So it is 1, 2, fizz, and 4. If it is 7, if your input is 7, then you should see here 4, and then here we see bus because 5 is divisible by 5. Then for number 6, we see here 6 itself or fizz or bus. We see here
Fizz.
fizz, right? Because it's divisible by 3, 6. And then 7. Is 7 divisible by 3 or 6 or by 5?
No.
No, none of this. So it's 7 here. If n given input is 9, 8 is not divisible by 3 or 5. So we put there 8 itself, and 9 is divisible by 3. So here we see fizz. So basically you would need to create here an array with length n. With length n. Oh, it's string. And then you should put their values. If I run this now, and if I display this array, if I call this fizzbus method, and I pass here this n, what should be displayed? What will be displayed in the output?
Nulls 9 times or no?
9 nulls, exactly, 9 nulls. But we should put here, instead of this nulls, insert values. Number itself, or fizz, or bus, or fizzbus value. So I think you can do it. You just write a for loop for I that runs array length times, and if I is divisible by 3 and by 5, then you assign to that element what if it's divisible by 3 and 5?
Fizzbus.
Fizzbus, like, and so on. Else if I divisible by 3, then you assign only fizz. And one more very important thing, you should make this order of if-else statements proper. If you make it this way, there should be a right order. If you make it if, and then this else if, then when it comes to 15, it will assign to that 15th element fizz instead of fizzbus, because when this condition is true, it will enter it, but then else if will not be executed. So that's why this one should come first. We check if it's divisible by both 3 and 5. And then we check the minors. If it's divisible by 3 only, or by 5 only, or by 5 only, or by number itself only. So here we convert that string into a string. We convert that int into a string, and then if it's divisible by 5, we assign there bus. And if I run it now, we have this. So there are 9 elements. Okay, we can make it, you can change it like from I plus plus here, I minus minus here. Okay. Then you can make it this way, like int j equals I plus 1. Then instead of this I, you can assign j. Okay. So if you should see here, instead of this 9, 8, 9, because we entered n as 9. Here it should be 1. As long as it starts from 0, we see here FizzBuzz because 0 is divisible by 3 and by 5 because it will return 0 itself. So here what we do, we do this. If I will be plus here. Let me try this. All right, so here, when it reaches okay, then I can do this. I can create here k, it will be 1, and then k is increased every time by plus, and then here we check instead of the I, all right, and then here if it should be created somewhere here before. All right, here, if you would like to get rid of this one, then there should be this k. Okay. So like you saw the solution, but you will need to come up with the solution yourself. But in the mock interview, the question will be like, how would you approach? How would you solve? Give me some ideas. Because you will not have enough time to write the whole code. All right, guys. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah, get prepared. Right after this class, I'm gonna send you a link where you'll be able to choose time for yourself for your interview, mock interview.